Hi, today I'm going to be doing a chess personality test. This is my first video on the PC, so I hope my mic isn't too loud. So yeah, I'm going to take the quiz. Which side would you rather play in the following position? Black to move. White or black? Alright. First thing I look at is material. So, black is up a piece for a pawn. Alright. So, in terms of material, black is up. In terms of king safety, the first thing I look at is that black is about to get absolutely obliterated down the e-file. And also, black can't castle because the king gets tied down to the bishop. So, in terms of king safety, white is better. Now, in terms of activity, white's pieces are more active. Black's pieces aren't really doing anything, except for like the knights. The knights are having a conversation with each other, but that's it. That's the only thing that black's pieces are doing. So, in terms of activity, white is better. In terms of pawn structure, black has 3 pawn islands and white has 2. And this pawn is a bit overextended. So, white has better pawn structure. And in terms of the space, white has more space in the center. I mean, this pawn does control some space on the queen's side, but it's also just a really big target. That's, yeah. So, and also, these rooks are extremely active on the open files. So, in terms of material, black is up in material. In terms of king safety, white has better king safety. In terms of activity, white has better activity. Or white has more activity, I should say. And in terms of pawn structure, white has better pawn structure. And, in terms of space, white has more space, so I say white. When you play in tournaments, do you usually score with really consistent results, or do you often perform on the extremes, either really well or really poorly? I'd say pretty consistent results. Which best describes how you think about this position in the Sveshnikov Sicilian? Black has given up the critically important square d5, or black has the other potential counterplay with the bishop pair and the f5 pawn break. In this position, the f5 pawn break actually looks quite strong. And the bishop pair, these bishops can be very good. If this bishop can come out to h6, these bishops will be very powerful. Or if black plays the f5 pawn break and white takes, then, white's bishop will still be very powerful. Except the difference is now it's in the center. So, yeah, I'd say B. Which statement is closer to the truth? I bring my best game when facing opponents I dislike, or I don't really notice my opponent. I don't really notice my opponent. Black just played g5. Your first instinct is to A, take on g5, or retreat to g3. Well, I take on g5 because the way I evaluate it is black has 1 piece defending the king, and after white takes on g5, white will have 1, 2, potentially 3 attackers. So I think that attack would do well. So I would take on g5 with the knight, since, well, actually I'm not sure. I think I'd take with the knight. Yeah. Do you play Gambit? Yes, I do. How do you think about whether or not to take on g5 as white? I would evaluate the placement of the pieces to decide if the attack seemed promising, which is exactly what I just did. Or I would calculate several variations to decide if white's attack is strong enough. A. Under serious time pressure, are you more likely to A, miss a tactic, or B, move pieces aimlessly? Probably B, actually. Which of these ideas do you prefer for white? White should trade bishops and put a strong knight on d4, which will prevent any counterplay from black doubling the rooks on the c5 by defending c2, I meant. Or white should push d4, temporarily misplacing black's side square bishop, and then start an attack on the king side with f5 where the black king sits alone. I'd trade and put a knight on d4, because if I play d4, if I push d4, then yeah, it temporarily misplaces black's third square bishop. But my bishop gets blocked in from 2 sides, and it'd have to reroute this way to the queen side. So I'd say A. And so that knight on d4 is really strong. Would be really strong. So yeah. You started the game out with d4. Would you rather your opponent play d5 or f5? Well, if they play d5, there's more openings that I'm really familiar with. For example, like Queen's Gambit and London kind of stuff. But if they play f5, that's actually known to be like good. Well, like if white is always slightly better if like the opponent plays d5 because white goes first. But if they play f5, it's known that like if someone responds with a Dutch defense, then white is better than they would be if black just responded with d5. So f5. You have been ahead for a pawn for most of the game, but after tough resistance from your opponent, you have only 5 minutes left in this position. Should you play on or offer your opponent for a draw? Keep pushing for the winner after a draw. This position looks quite winnable because this passed pawn, this passed pawn looks quite strong. Yeah, black has also has a passed pawn, but right now it can't really move because of the knight. So if I can bring my king in successfully, like grow my passed pawn down the board, then I think that'd be good and I win. And also on the queen side, white has a king side majority. So I would keep pushing for the win. Which statement comes closest to your feelings? It's always a joy to be paired with someone you've crushed in the past, or the odds of winning are slightly higher against opponents one has previously beaten. A. It's always a joy to be paired with someone I've crushed in the past. With plenty of time on your clock, what would you do in this position? Trade on e6 and play rook d7 because the endgame is good for white, or redirect the knight to c3 via a4 to preserve the better-minded piece. Or invest some serious time calculating whether knight takes e6 or choose anything concrete. I'd probably trade and infiltrate with my rook. Because if I trade and infiltrate with my rook, that would force black to be a bit more passive and like they'd have to protect their pawn. Because if they move their pawn, of course I take that pawn. And yeah, so I think this plan of infiltrating with the rook seems quite strong. So I trade on e6 and play rook d7. What do you think about the famous saying, chess is 99% tactics? I agree or I disagree? I disagree because there's way more to chess than just tactics, like time management and creativity and like stuff. So there's way more. Of course, chess like does have a lot of tactics in it, but I wouldn't say 99%. So I disagree. What do you think about this wild gambit line for black, white to move? No way, am I trying to lose, or I like my chances and this would definitely mess with my opponent. So white is up a rook, as it seems. Of course, yeah. So white is up a rook. Yeah. There's nothing much to say about that other than white is up a rook. Although black has created some initiative in the center, like they have the full center, they have more space, and they're developed more. They have 2 knights out, but that's good for like. But the length I'd go to get like that, like center pawns, more space, and like more development is probably like 3 pawns. I wouldn't give up a 4 rook. Well, maybe like that's a rook 4 minor piece since this knight is pretty much in jail. But yeah, the most I'd give up is 3 pawns for that. So I'd say no way am I trying to lose. After losing a game, have you ever broken something or yelled out loud? No or yes? No, I have not. Where to play in castle? Kingside or queenside? If I castle queenside, there's more pieces assuring like my king that he's safe. But black is more mobile. He can easily transfer his pieces to the queenside faster. And yeah, my pieces are already pointing at the king, but I mean, they're not that. I wouldn't say that's an attack at all. Because first black would have to play like g6 and then transfer his knight over. because then that would hang a pawn if he just does that immediately. Yeah. But, like, let's say black transferred his knight immediately and hung this pawn. That wouldn't be much of an attack, because once the king slides over to h8, then white would immediately after retreat his bishop, or else h6 is coming, and that would trap the bishop. So, yeah. And also, if I castle queenside, then my knight becomes pinned. So I'd say kingside. Yeah, kingside. Which is closer to the truth. I get excited or nervous before a game, or I don't worry about prizes, money, titles, or honors while playing. I just play my game. I get excited or nervous before a game. That's probably because I'm really young. But there has been times where I'm really scared before tournaments. So yeah, all right. Worried, I should say. How would you come up with a plan in this position as white? Consider the strengths and weaknesses of black's position and decide where my pieces feel best, or I would calculate some line for white to see how strong various possibilities are. I would consider the strengths and weaknesses of black's position and decide where my pieces feel best. I don't like calculating. Well, in puzzles, I calculate a lot, but in normal games, I don't really calculate. I just use my intuition. Alright. Which is harder for you to do? Identify my advantages in building a plan, or trade a good position for a strong attack? Trading a good position for a strong attack is harder, since identifying my advantages in building a plan is quite easy for me, but trading a good position for a strong attack is harder. Alright, Prodigy, that's good. So, I'm more attacking than positional, more aggressive than solid, more intuitive than calculating, more calm than emotional. Yay, Magnus Carlsen. I got Magnus. Alright. So, recommended opening. Wait, I want to read this first. The Prodigy is an ultimate sportsman. Prodigies play aggressively and fight for the win from beginning to end, but place the highest value on maintaining emotional control and utilizing every opportunity that comes their way. Prodigies are not out to prove any kinds of theories or create great works of art, though that happens anyways. For prodigies, winning is everything, because winning is simply more fun. Yeah, so recommended openings are Ruy Lopez. I think that's how I pronounce it. Ruy Lopez. Yeah. Spanish, Queen's Gambit. I play that. I also play the Ruy Lopez. Sicilian. I play the Sicilian. I really like Najdorf stuff. I play a lot of Najdorf. So, and the Grunfeld. I don't play the Grunfeld that often, but I have played it once or twice. Yeah. Magnus Carlsen, born 1990. Yeah, I don't think we need any introduction to Carlsen. Right. By the way, if you're wondering, the openings that are listed are the Ruy Lopez is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop b5. You probably know that. Sicilian, we don't need any introduction to Sicilian. It's just e4, c5. The Queen's Gambit is, of course, d4, d5, c4. And the Grunfeld, there's many move orders, but this is the one that normally happens in my games. d4, knight f6, c4, g6, so a King's Indian, knight c3, and then d5 instead of bishop g7 or d6. So yeah, thank you for watching. Oh wait, I want to look at these. So, professional Mikhail Botvinnik is a professional. He was #1 in the world for a long time. Vasily Ivanchuk, Chucky, is a romantic. Emmanuel Lasker is a surgeon. Vladimir Kramnik is a technician. Aaron Nimsowicz, I think that's how I pronounce it. I always had trouble pronouncing his last name. But yeah, Aaron, I just call him Aaron, is an anaconda. Robert J. Fisher, Bobby Fischer, is an assassin. Hikaru Nakamura is a barbarian. Garry Kasparov is a champion. Viktor Korchnoi is an escape artist. Jose Capablanca is a genius, yes. Anatoly Karpov is a grinder. Wilhelm Steins is a mad scientist. Mikhail Tal is a magician from Riga. Alexander Alekhine is a mastermind. Viswanathan Anand Vishy is a natural, and we're back here. Alright, thank you for watching. Yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to do this quiz yourself. It was really fun, and bye.